Hello students, now we are going to study about the disease of gallbladder. So what is gallbladder? Gallbladder is a hollow intraperitoneal organ that stores, you are getting it, that stores and concentrates. So that stores and concentrate bile. So you are you need to focus on this diagram that is I already got from Google. So what is the bile? So the liver produces bile, and from all over the liver you are watching it that all over the liver, right side and left side, bile is collected and taken via left hepatic duct and right hepatic duct into common hepatic duct. This is common hepatic duct, CHD, common hepatic duct, and it enters and stores into gallbladder. So what will happen? There is storing of bile or bile fluid into the gallbladder where it concentrates into concentrated form of bile, and when you take a fatty meal it releases after stimulation of duodenum or gastric contents. As you take meal it releases. How it releases? When you take food, gallbladder contracts, it releases bile into drop form into duodenum. So what will happen? As you go, there is a coming pathway and outgoing pathway. This is common bile duct, which takes right hepatic duct and left hepatic duct, which takes common hepatic duct and cystic duct. So this cystic duct and common hepatic duct joins to form common bile duct. So you are getting it. So after this, as bile reaches into second part of duodenum, it is joined by pancreatic duct. So you are getting it. It is the, we have to emphasize on this part. This part is right upper quadrant. So our topic is about cholelithiasis. What is cholelithiasis? You got know how about bile and how bile is transported and what, how bile is produced. Bile is produced from liver and transported from left hepatic duct, right hepatic duct, all over the liver to common hepatic duct or into stores into gallbladder. So what is cholelithiasis? Cholelithiasis is presence of abnormal concretions. You have heard the word concrete walls, concrete roofs, concrete floors. Presence of abnormal concretions, abnormal concretions in gallbladder. So what it stores and concentrates bile. So what will happen when there is abnormal concretions in gallbladder, or concretions, we can say concrete stones, stones of gallbladder, stones of bile, bile containing cholesterol, RBCs, pigmented stones or mixed stones, any kind of stone. So we are going to discuss in our later section of this video. So what will happen? Generally there is imbalance in bile salts, lecithin. So lecithin is a fat stabilizer compound produced in liver. So when there is imbalance in bile salt, lecithin, cholesterol, calcium carbonate and bilirubin, so these are the culprits behind there is accumulation of gallstones in gallbladder. So biles, when there is imbalance in all any of these chemicals imbalance, it leads to gallstone. So what will happen? There is a mechanism called biliary stasis. Biliary stasis. So what will happen? The bile which is stored in it is staying for long time, so which leads to formation of key component of formation of gallstones. we are going to study pathophysiology in our next section of this video. So what will happen? The first thing is there is not emptying of bile from the gallbladder. The next part is there is impaired contractility. This bile gallbladder is not contracting enough to push the bile fluid into common bile duct. So there is impaired gallbladder emptying. So this leads to stasis of bile in the gallbladder, leads to cholestasis. So what will happen? What kind of stones which can develop in our gallbladder? So there are three kind of stones which can develop, and each stone has its own etiology, own risk factor. So how it develops we are going to discuss in detail. So first thing is development of first stone nature is cholesterol stones. So how cholesterol stones are formed? There are risk factors. First risk factor is obesity. A patient having obesity is hypercholesterolemic. So the next risk factor is patient having insulin resistance. The third thing is patient having lipid metabolism abnormal, dyslipidemia. So his body is not clearing lipid normally. So these risk factor leads to formation of cholesterol stones. So next thing, next risk factor, I skipped epidemiology. You have to understand that female sex have more prone to develop uh, cholelithiasis than male. So we are going to study how in females cholesterol stones are formed. A female sex is also a risk factor of development of gallstone. So you are getting it when a patient is in reproductive age. In reproductive age, a female produces estrogen and progesterone. And when there is multiparity and pregnancy, there is surge of estrogen and progesterones. There is increased level. What will happen? Let's start from here. As in female, estrogen level is increased. It leads to increased secretion of bile, which is rich in cholesterol. So what will happen when there is hypercholesterolemic bile or bile rich in cholesterol? It leads to formation of cholesterol stone formation. So next thing is how progesterone causes cholesterol stone formation. When there is increased progesterone level, as in a case of female, there is increased progesterone level. What is the effect of progesterone? This progesterone relaxes smooth muscle, and as you know, gallbladder also contains smooth muscle wall. So what will happen? The relaxes smooth muscle. These smooth muscles of gallbladder relaxes. This leads to decreased gallbladder emptying. There is less contractility or less forceful contractile or contractility of gallbladder leads to decrease emptying of gallbladder. So what will happen when there is decreased gallbladder emptying? There will be stasis, and after stasis what will happen? There is stone formation. So you got it. How in females which are especially multiparity or in pregnancy produces cholesterol stones in gallbladder. So next thing, a patient of age more than 40 years, it's also a risk factor of cholesterol stones. So next, a patient is taking drugs. Which drugs? Patient taking fibrates. What will fibrates do? Fibrates leads to fibrates have a mechanism involved in cholesterol degradation. So what will happen when there will be no degradation of cholesterol? there will be accumulation of cholesterol, hypercholesterolemia, and there will be cholesterol stones. So next drug is patient taking estrogen as a drug form. Next drug which causing cholesterol stone formation in gallbladder is oral contraceptive pills containing progesterone. The next risk factor of cholesterol stone is malabsorption. So a patient of ileum resected having ileal resection surgery or cystic fibrosis or celiac disease or Crohn disease having malabsorption symptoms can also have cholesterol stone in his gallbladder or in her gallbladder. So a patient after rapid weight loss, like a patient have done his bariatric surgery and loses 30-40 kgs in a month, so such patient can also have cholesterol stone. So what is the pathophysiology? Now the main point we are going to discuss how cholesterol stones are formed. Pathophysiology. In this video, my lecture, you are going to understand everything which is behind the formation of gallstones or gallbladder stones is you are going to study. Less talks, more understanding. कम बातें होंगी, ज़्यादा अंडरस्टैंडिंग होगी. So what will happen? How cholesterol stones form? What is the pathophysiology behind it? When there is abnormal hepatic cholesterol metabolism, it leads to increased cholesterol concentration in bile. So what will happen? When there is increased concentration of cholesterol in bile and decreased formation of bile salts, you are getting it? When there is increased concentration of cholesterol in bile and decreased formation of bile salts and lecithin. What is a lecithin? Lecithin is involved in lipid or fatty acid metabolism. It is a stabilizer compound. There will be, when there is decreased lecithin and bile acid and increased concentration of cholesterol, what will happen? There will be hypersaturation of bile. So when there is hypersaturation of bile, there is precipitation of bile, cholesterol and calcium carbonate. Precipitation of cholesterol and calcium carbonate. When there is a formation of precipitates, in Pakistani words, जब छोटी छोटी टुकड़ियाँ बन जाएंगी या फुटकड़ियाँ बन जाएंगी कोलेस्ट्रॉल की कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट के साथ, when there is formation of cholesterol and calcium carbonate precipitates, it leads to formation of stones. These precipitate links together and form bonds and form stones in a very simple way. So that's how there is a formation of cholesterol stone. So next thing is black pigmented stones. A patient can have black pigmented stone. How black pigmented stones is formed? So we are going to study. First type of stones can be formed in gallbladder is cholesterol stone. Next is black pigmented stone. So there is pigment, so it means there is a pigmented compound in such stones, which is going to tell us what kind of stones these are. So risk factor of these black pigmented stones are, first thing is chronic hemolytic anemia. So a patient comes to you with a history of hemolytic anemia like sickle cell disease, hereditary spherocytosis, so in which there is hemolysis of RBCs, like chronic hemolytic anemia. There will be, when there is hemolysis of RBCs, there will be more formation of bilirubin. So bilirubin and biliverdin are pigmented compounds. So if there is accumulation of this bilirubin in bile, it leads to formation of bile pigmented stone. Next thing is a patient having alcoholic cirrhosis. Third risk factor is Crohn disease. In Crohn disease, there will be malabsorption symptoms as well. There will be anemia. So next thing is if a patient is on total parenteral nutrition, can also have black pigmented stone. The last risk factor of black pigmented stone is advanced age. So what is the pathophysiology behind formation of these pigmented stones? So we are going to discuss pathophysiology. So what will happen when there is increased hemolysis of RBCs? There is increased circulating unconjugated bilirubin. So when there is increased circulating unconjugated bilirubin, what will happen? This unconjugated bilirubin is reuptake by this unconjugated bilirubin is uptake, and there are two ways. Either it can be absorbed, uptake, or either it can be conjugated. So there are two things, two pathways of unconjugated bilirubins to choose. Either it can be uptaken, so it can be conjugated. So when there is increased uptake, when there is increased formation of unconjugated bilirubin, there will be increased uptake or there will be more conjugation. So when these two mechanism will happen, it leads to precipitation of bilirubin polymers. When these precipitate forms, these precipitates leads to formation of stones. So you got the pathophysiology behind black pigmented stone. So next thing is formation of mixed stones or brown pigmented stones. So we are going to study the third type of stones, mixed or brown pigmented stones. So what is the risk factor of this formation of these kind of stones in gallbladder? First is bacterial infection. How bacteria, we are going to study the pathophysiology in next part, next few minutes. So bacterial infections or parasites, these can lead to formation of mixed or brown pigmented stones. So what is the pathophysiology behind the formation of these stones? What will happen when there is infection or infestation? This leads to, so you are getting it that this is the liver. A bacteria, this is a parasite and this is a bacteria. So you are getting it. These bacteria leads to causes injury of hepatocytes. You understand it that when a parasite or bacteria collides, or there is an accident between liver cells and bacteria or in parasite, there will be injury of bacteria as well liver cells. So what will happen? This leads to release of beta glucuronidase. So what will happen? This beta glucuronidase hydrolyzes conjugated bilirubin and lecithin. When there will be breakdown of conjugated bilirubin and lecithin, a stabilizer compound, in the bile, what will happen? There will be increased unconjugated bilirubin and fatty acid. As a stabilizer is also hydrolyzed, and conjugated bilirubin, when it is hydrolyzed, it can be either uptaken or either it can be unconjugated. So we discussed two pathways. So what will happen when there is unconjugated bilirubin and fatty acids? These will precipitate with calcium carbonate. So when there will be bonding of unconjugated bilirubin with calcium carbonate, there will be formation of precipitate. जैसे ही unconjugated bilirubin calcium carbonate के साथ बॉन्ड बनाएगा, precipitates फुटकड़ियाँ बनेंगी. वो फुटकड़ियाँ आपस में मिलती जाएंगी, ठीक है. रेत के ज़रात आपस में जुड़ते जाएंगे और एक ईंट बन जाएंगे. उस ईंट को कहते हैं हम लोग ब्राउन पिगमेंटेड स्टोन. So that's how you know that the three types of stones and how they forms. So we are getting clinical features, how a patient will present to us. the very crucial part of our to have a grip on your topic. You have to understand different clinical points and clinical features. So how a patient present to us? So where is the gallbladder present? Gallbladder is present in bind to our adherent to our liver and present in right upper quadrant. So mostly patients are asymptomatic. So first thing you are getting from my lecture is मोस्टली पेशेंट ऑफ कोलीलिथियासिस और गॉल ब्लैडर स्टोन्स आर और पित्ते की पथरी वाले स्टोन्स होंगे एसिम्प्टोमेटिक. सो सिम्टम्स क्या होंगे इनके अंदर? सिम्टम्स होंगे देयर विल बी राइट अपर क्वाड्रेंट पेन और वी कॉल इट or we call the pain caused by gallbladder is biliary colic. So there will be biliary colic. So what is biliary colic? We are going to study about biliary colic. There will be constant dull right upper quadrant pain not lasting more than 6 hours. So having it, you ask, a patient comes to you with right upper quadrant pain and you ask him that if it is a constant or not. Patient tells you that it is continuously pain. So which is how the nature of pain is, and he tells you that it is dull in nature and how many hours it's been and that you are suffering from this and what is the duration of pain. So patient tells you it usually 5 to 6 hours, not more than 5 to 6 hours. So next thing, is it associated with food intake or not? Patient tells you that whenever I take food, after food intake I feel right upper quadrant pain. This pain is called postprandial pain. So how this pain develops? Due to vagal stimulation. So whenever you take fatty meal, there will be increased contraction of gallbladder. This increased contraction of gallbladder tries to push more bile into your duodenum, and this attempt to force the bile, there are stones present in gallbladder. There are stones. When there is contraction, gallbladder tries to push these stones towards the cystic duct. So whenever gallbladder contracts, it tries to push the stones in cystic duct. This leads to pain on right upper quadrant after a fatty meal. So this you ask the patient either the pain radiates or not. Patient tells you it radiates to epigastrium. Or where it radiates? It radiates to right shoulder. Is it goes back or not? Yes, doctor, it goes to back. So if a pain radiates to these sides, this is called referred pain. So what else patient can present with? Patient can have nausea and vomiting. So after eating uh, 2-3 spoons of rice or any fatty meal, 2-3 bites of fatty meal, patient feels satiety, early satiety. It's also a feature of cholelithiasis, a clinical feature of cholelithiasis. Patient may have bloating and dyspepsia. These clinical features are present in a patient of cholelithiasis or a patient of having stones in gallbladder. So how will we going to diagnose? First of all, when if a patient comes to you having no symptoms, asymptomatic patient. Let's use another asymptomatic patient. There is no follow-up need, there is no diagnostic requirement, no diagnostic workup is required. So whenever a patient is having symptoms, you are suspecting cholelithiasis symptoms. So what will you going to do? You are going to perform ultrasound. So we call it transabdominal right upper quadrant ultrasound more specifically. So you ask the patient to go for a ultrasound scan, and you write on your prescription transabdominal right upper quadrant ultrasound. So next thing which is we are going to perform for our diagnostic is lab studies. Usually asymptomatic patients have no LFTs altered, no CBC change, and no and there will be normal amylase or lipase level. So in this picture you have seen that in right upper quadrant there is duodenum, there is head of pancreas, there is gallbladder, and there is some part of liver. So in if a patient comes to you in right upper quadrant pain, you have to rule out these structures, that either which structure is defected or which structure is abnormally working, having abnormality. So you have to clarify your right upper quadrant organs. So what lab test you are going to perform? You are going to perform CBC. Usually it's normal as patient having no symptom. So next thing is LFTs. So it also comes normal in asymptomatic patient. So you have to perform these tests in every patient comes to you with right upper quadrant pain. So next test is you are going to check pancreas either working normally or not, amylase and lipases. So why we are going to perform amylase or lipases? Usually I have seen you that there is pancreatic duct coming from all over the pancreas and connects itself with common bile duct and enters in the duodenum. So you get it. So we have to these amylase and lipases from pancreas also comes to your GI tract. So we are going to check either it's pancreas working normal or not. So in cholelithiasis these are usually normal. So I have a bad habit to tell you everything about every investigation. So when you go for right upper quadrant ultrasound, what will you find? So when will you indicate? A patient comes to you with symptomatic right upper quadrant pain and usually nausea, and comes to you with nausea, vomiting, early satiety, and you ask about the history that it is either associated with food intake or not, and patient tells you that it is associated with after taking food, and he tells you that whenever he consumes food after few minutes I started developing right upper quadrant pain. So you are suspecting that this is a cholelithiasis patient. So what will you find? You will find highly echogenicity. So echogenicity, what is echogenicity? Pakistani for those students who understand Hindi or English, I am telling you that कि जब आप एक कमरे के अंदर बैठे होते हैं, आपने बहुत बड़ा स्पीकर चलाया हुआ है, ठीक है, जब उसकी आवाज़ दीवारों के साथ टकराती है वो रेडिएट बैक करती है, आवाज़ गूंजती है कमरे के अंदर, एक इको प्रोड्यूस होती है, ठीक है। इसी तरह जब आप राइट अपर क्वाड्रेंट में सॉफ्ट स्ट्रक्चर्स पड़े हुए हैं उसके अंदर, ठीक है, ये स्टोन्स पड़े हुए हैं, ठीक है, पत्थर पड़े हुए हैं, जब आप अल्ट्रासाउंड वेव्स डालेंगे ये इनके साथ टकराएगी और ये रिफ्लेक्ट बैक करेगी, ठीक है। अगर स्टोन्स नहीं पड़े, जहाँ जहाँ स्टोन्स नहीं पड़े, देखें ये पड़ी हैं गुजर रहा है, ठीक है, जहाँ पे नहीं पड़े वहाँ से गुजर रहा है, जहाँ पे पड़े हैं वहाँ से रिफ्लेक्ट बैक कर रहे हैं. This is called highly echogenicity. So for those students who understand English more well, that when there are stones in a hollow structure, when you throw sound waves like ultrasound waves on that stones, these sound waves reflect back, and where there is hollow structure, there will be passage of sound waves from these hollow structures, and where there is stones placed, these waves reflect back, and this reflection produces echogenicity, and where there is stones there will be highly echogenic foci. So what will you find in ultrasound analysis or ultrasound scan? There will be highly echogenic foci. So what else you will find? You will find strong positive acoustic shadowing. Acoustic shadowing. So I am going to tell you these two. So what is this? This is the form of ultrasound imaging artifact in which characterized by lack of echoic signal. So there are these structures. So this is soft muscle structure which cannot absorb sound wave. So what will happen? Sound wave pass through it. Let's draw a new diagram. So when sound waves pass through these structures, there will be no echogenicity. So what will happen when there will be no structures behind that to absorb? So like lack of echoic signal behind, there will be no absorption of sound waves behind these structures. So what will happen? There will be reflection of sound waves. This is called, there will be a shadowing formed posterior to this. This is called posterior acoustic shadow. For better understanding, you can consult a radiologist. I am not a radiologist and I have this. So what will happen? So there are two things. First thing is sludge for first thing is sludge and next thing is स्टोन। पर दो स्टूडेंट, एक चीज़ होती है स्लज, जिसे आप समझ लें गारा। जैसे आपने मिट्टी, ठीक है, रेतली मिट्टी है, उसके अंदर जैसे ही आपने, जैसे रेतली मिट्टी को समझ लें बाइल है, ठीक है, और उसके अंदर आपने सीमेंट डाल दिया, कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट डाल दिया, और उसके अंदर जब पानी डालेंगे तो वो क्या करेगा? वो आपस में जुड़ जाएगा, ठीक है, जुड़ गया, ठीक है। इस चीज़ को कहते हैं हम लोग स्टोन फॉर्मेशन। एक तो ये चीज़ हो सकती है, दूसरी चीज़ ये हो सकती है कि आपने चिकनी मिट्टी ली है, ठीक है, उसके साथ आपने बाइल मिला दिया। अब वो क्या करेगा? वो सैचुरेट हो जाएगा, आपस में थिक हो जाएगा। इस चीज़ को कहते हैं स्लज, यानी कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड बाइल को हम लोग कहेंगे स्लज। Concentrated bile is called sludge. So where there is sludge present, there will be low echogenic foci. Where there will be low absorption of sound waves, so there will be low echogenic foci. So these are our ultrasound studies. Next additional studies we can go for is MRI abdomen without contrast or with contrast, or we can ask for MRCP, magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography, MRCP, magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatography. So we can also ask radiologist, if a patient is very obese, we can ask for CT abdomen with contrast, IV contrast. When there is no findings on ultrasound and you are suspecting that patient is having cholelithiasis, you can advise CT abdomen. So where there is no MRI available, you can also, and no findings on ultrasound abdomen and still you are suspecting, you can go for CT abdomen with contrast. So next our finding is abdominal X-ray. You can ask for abdominal X-ray. So there is one thing. There are two things you have to understand. First thing is radio opaque and radiolucent. So in order to understand, when X-rays pass on a radiolucent stones, there will be dark or gray shadow. There will be dark or gray shadowing. So what will happen when you pass X-rays on a radio opaque stone? There will be white or light shadow, So if you ask to go for a X-ray and there is a white shadowing on right upper quadrant area, so there will be radio opaque stones. And if there are gray or black color shadowing in right upper quadrant or in gallbladder on X-ray imaging, there will be radiolucent stones. So cholesterol stones are pure radiolucent. It means it's hard to detect on X-rays because X-ray image is also black in color due to air, and those stones, so calcium compounds appear like our bones appears white on X-ray. So if a stone is radiolucent, it means we cannot detect it on, or it is hard to detect on X-rays. So 15 to 20% stones are only radio opaque. So that's why we perform ultrasound abdomen more commonly than abdominal x-ray. So what is the treatment plan? So there are three ways to treat such patients. So important point in our discussion is treatment. Next part is our differential diagnosis, and the next part of our lecture is next objective of our lecture is complication. So a patient comes to you with no symptoms, asymptomatic patient है, मतलब कुछ भी नहीं है उसे, मतलब पेन हो ही नहीं रही, ठीक है, उसको कोई टेंडरनेस नहीं है, कोई पेन नहीं है, कोई नोजिया वॉमिटिंग नहीं है, उसके बाद कोई जनाब जी उसको ब्लोटिंग डिस्पेप्सिया नहीं है। ऐसे पेशेंट के अंदर हम एक्सपेक्टेंट मैनेजमेंट देंगे, ठीक है। मैं आगे बताता हूँ क्या होती है। वी आर गोइंग टू एक्सप्लेन एक्सपेक्टेंट मैनेजमेंट इन आवर नेक्स्ट lecture. So if a patient who is asymptomatic develops symptoms, for such patient we have two situations. First thing is either it is uncomplicated or either the symptoms complicated. So if a patient comes to you with symptoms which are uncomplicated of cholelithiasis, we'll treat symptomatically, like we'll treat biliary colic. So we'll give initial supportive therapy and we'll advise patient lifestyle modification. So if a patient comes to you with complicated symptomatic patient management, what will we go? We will treat him like a patient of acute cholecystitis comes to us. We will go for surgically removal of cholecystitis after pre-operative antibiotic course. After pre-operative, let's write it for your notes. Pre-operative antibiotic course, will do cholecystectomy. So this is clear. A patient comes to you with symptomatic complicated cholelithiasis, you will treat pre-operative antibiotic course you will give, and then you will perform surgery to remove gallbladder. So the management is of symptomatic uncomplicated cholelithiasis. We treat biliary colic and lifestyle modification. So what will you, a patient comes to you with acute biliary disease, like a patient is symptomatic uncomplicated, what will we do? So we'll give patients bowel rest. So if a patient comes to you with biliary colic and you are suspecting that this patient is having symptomatic uncomplicated cholelithiasis and it's leading to complications, so what will you do? You will admit the patient, you will give his bowel rest, nil per hour, and what will we treat? We will treat biliary colic by giving analgesics. So first line of analgesics is, first line is NSAIDs. So if a patient is not responding to first line, we will give second line. Second line is opioids. So those patients we do not improve with NSAIDs, we give them opioids. So what kind of NSAIDs we can give? We can give diclofenac, ibuprofen, ketorolac. So opioids include morphine, buprenorphine, or mepridine. So next thing is, first we give analgesic, give bowel rest. Next we'll treat his biliary colic. Third thing is we'll give spasmolytic along with analgesics to treat severe pain. So if a patient develops severe vomiting, we'll treat vomiting. How will we treat? We'll give IV fluid therapy. So in diagnostic, you can also perform, if a patient comes to you with clinical feature of right upper quadrant pain, nausea, vomiting, and you are finding that there is severe protracted vomiting and patient having multiple episodes of vomiting, you will perform basic metabolic panel, in the which you will check fluid electrolyte concentration in the body, and when after checking electrolyte level, you give patient fluid therapy along with electrolytes. यू गेट माई पॉइंट। अच्छा, एक पेशेंट को वॉमिटिंग है तो आपने उसको फ्लूइड थेरेपी तो देनी है, साथ उसके इलेक्ट्रोलाइट लेवल चेक करने हैं, कहीं उसे हाइपोनेट्रीमिया ना हो जाए या हाइपोकैल्सीमिया या हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया ना हो जाए। सो विल ट्रीट हीज electrolyte level too. So if a patient having multiple episodes of vomiting, so what will we do, and he is not responding to us and he is not treating with this, we will consider giving ng tube insertion with suction. We'll try to suck that contents. So this is the management of a patient of symptomatic uncomplicated cholelithiasis. So what is surgical management? So if a patient comes to you with symptomatic uncomplicated cholelithiasis and he is saying that please doctor sahab treat my biliary colic, please done anything to do, so you will ask for his consent and you will perform. After stabilizing him, you can perform elective laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So what is the indication of this procedure, of this surgical management? अच्छा, a patient comes to you with uncomplicated cholelithiasis but having development of these features, like there will be that it leads to complications. So symptomatic cholelithiasis is also indication of elective laparoscopic cholelithiasis. A patient having asymptomatic features, but there are those risk factors which indicates that patient is a highly selected candidate for gallbladder cancer, we perform laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Next thing is the patient is asymptomatic but patient having risk of developing complications. As I already told you that in a immunocompromised patient there is very fastly development of complication. So next thing is when there is multiple gallstones but there is no development of there is no complications and patient is having no symptoms, you will also consider giving him elective laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So that's all for elective laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Next thing is what is the non-operative management. A patient comes to you and tells you that I am very frightened to remove my gallbladder, do anything other than surgery. So what will you do? So there are some patients we cannot perform surgery, like those patients having recent MI or those patients which are totally unfit for anesthesia, like chronic heart disease or chronic liver disease. They are not fit for anesthesia. We give them non-operative management. So what we give? We give expectant management. Expectant management. So what is the expectant management? We'll give patient lifestyle modification. So modify your life. Like obesity is also a risk factor. We ask the patient to run or do jogging or yoga or any cardio activities. And next thing is in lifestyle modification is take those diets which are not contain fat, low fat diet, low fat low fat diet. So next thing is we'll ask the patient not to take those drugs which are causing formation of stones, OCPs, estrogens, OCPs containing progesterones or fibrates. So next thing is we ask the patient to exercise daily. So this is the expectant management that a patient can do. So next thing is we can give some medication. We can give oral bile acid dissolution therapy. So if a patient having pure cholesterol stones, let's revise what nature of pure cholesterol stones on X-ray are. They are pure radiolucents. Pure cholesterol stones. We can give oral bile acid dissolution therapy. What it includes? It includes a drug which is called ursodeoxycholic acid. So for how much period we are going to? We are going to give it for 6 to 24 months. Next thing we can do in a patient which is not reluctant to do surgery or which is not reluctant to surgery is extra shockwave lithotripsy, or a patient is affording as it is an expensive procedure. So let's study about ursodeoxycholic acid. This is a bile acid. Where is bile acid? What it do? It inhibits absorption of cholesterol, from intestine. Also it leads to, it affects on liver cells to reduce liver synthesis of cholesterol, hepatic cholesterol synthesis. So there will be low cholesterol level in the body, there will be less accumulation or less storing of cholesterol, and there will be less precipitation of cholesterol and calcium carbonate. So we are treating the cause. We are treating hypercholesterolemia by giving patient ursodeoxycholic acid for 6 to 24 weeks in such patients which cannot undergo surgery. So that's all about our knowledge of and treatment and epidemiology and everything about cholelithiasis or stones in gallbladder. So what complications can arise? So this is, so if you are working in peripheries, patient comes to you and you will treat symptomatic. If you are working in a tertiary care, usually patient comes with complications. So what kind of complications can arise by cholelithiasis? So first thing is cholecystitis. There will be inflammation of gallbladder leads to cholecystitis. It can be acute, it can be chronic, और stones, अगर stones sharp हैं, ठीक है, तो sharp object अगर देखें, ये sharp object पड़ा हुआ है, like let's write, ये पड़े हुए हैं stones, ठीक है, ये वॉल है गॉल ब्लैडर की, दिस इज द वॉल ऑफ गॉल ब्लैडर एंड द स्टोन्स आर शार्प इन नेचर. So what will, when the gallbladder contract, it exerts force, and when it exerts force on each other, it can leads to rupture of gallbladder. This situation is called porcelain gallbladder. So what will happen, these stones can dislodge to common bile duct. This disease is called choledocholithiasis. Next thing is there will be inflammation of hepatic ducts. This situation is called, I forgot this thing, when there is obstruction of common bile duct, there will be ascending infection. This disease is called acute cholangitis, or acute biliary pancreatitis can also develop. So next thing is let's move to our picture. As it resides on, as our gallbladder resides on duodenum, there will be formation of fistula. This fistula is called biliary enteric fistula, or cholecystoenteric and choledochoenteric fistula, which is a rare manifestation of or complication of cholelithiasis. So the next important thing we are going to study is Mirizi syndrome. MIRIZZI syndrome. So what will happen when there is gallstones impaction at gallbladder neck? This is the neck of gallbladder. When there is impaction of stones in the neck of gallbladder or in fundibulum, what will be happen? There will be extrinsic compression of common bile duct by gallstones. Extrinsic compression of CBD by gallstones. Impacted in the cystic duct or the infundibulum of gallbladder. So what will patient present to us? Patients presenting complaint will be a same of choledocholithiasis, like a stone in common bile duct. So what will we do? We will perform ERCP or MRCP. So what will we find? We will find narrowing of common hepatic duct or stones in cystic duct or dilation of these intrahepatic biliary tree. So what will we do? We will give ERCP. What will we do? We will do ERCP guided CBD स्टंट प्लेसमेंट. हम CBD के अंदर एक स्टंट प्लेस कर देंगे यूजिंग एंडोस्कोपिक रेजोनेंस कोलेंजियो एंडोस्कोपिक रिट्रोग्रेड, यानी कि यहाँ से हम एक एंडोस्कोप डालेंगे अंदर यहाँ पे, और ठीक है यहाँ पे एक स्टंट डाल देंगे रिट्रोग्रेड कोलेंजियो पेंक्रियोटोग्राफी. इट इज़ अ डायग्नोस्टिक एज वेल एज थेराप्यूटिक प्रोसीजर. So what else we can do if a patient having stones impacted on infundibulum or CBD? We can perform open cholecystectomy in treatment. ERCP with stenting and open cholecystectomy. So what complications can arise from Mirizi syndrome? Patient can have choledocal fistula, choledocal fistula. This is the complication of Mirizi syndrome. Or cholecystoenteric fistula is also a complication, biliary enteric fistula which we call it. The next thing is gallstone ileus. What is this called? This is mechanical bowel obstruction by a gallstone. So what complication if a stone impact on gallbladder neck or infundibulum happens? What next complication can arise? The next complication can arise is mucocele formation. Or we can call it gallbladder mucocele or gallbladder hydrops. There will be marked distension of gallbladder with sterile mucinous content. Why? Due to biliary outflow obstruction. So if a gallstone is impacted at neck impaction, usually patient develops gallbladder mucoceles. So when there is chronic biliary outflow obstruction, there will be resorption of bile and secretion of mucin by bile mucosa. मैं ये उर्दू में बता देता हूँ. होता क्या है, जैसे ही बाइल की आउटफ्लो ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट हो जाती है, यानी कि नेक पे स्टोन है, ये हो गया ठीक है, ये नेक हो गई, ये हो गया, ठीक है, CBD आ गई है। यहाँ पे नेक में जनाब जी ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन हो गई है। अब क्या होगा, बाइल आगे फ्लो नहीं कर पा रहा, ठीक है। इसकी वजह से क्या होगा, देयर विल बी रिजॉर्प्शन ऑफ बाइल और फॉर्मेशन ऑफ म्यूकस बाय बाइलरी म्यूकोजा। अब इससे क्या होगा, इसके अंदर म्यूकस अकुमुलेट होना शुरू हो जाएगा। जैसे ही ये म्यूसन या म्यूकस अकुमुलेट होगा, इसे रास्ता नहीं मिल रहा बाहर जाने का। सो ये रास्ता नहीं मिल रहा, तो ये क्या होगा, पहले इतना है, फिर ये डिस्टेंशन हो जाएगी, ठीक है, ग्रोस डिस्टेंशन होगी। सो बाइल जब हम पैल्पेट करेंगे ना राइट अपर क्वाड्रेंट को, वी कैन पैल्पेटेड गॉल ब्लैडर इजीली इन सच पेशेंट्स। इसका भी ट्रीटमेंट सेम है, वी कैन डू ERCP विद या तो हम उसके साथ पुश कर देंगे बैक टू दिस गॉल ब्लैडर, या हम लेप्रोस्कोपिक कोलिसिस्टेक्टमी कर सकते हैं, या हम इसमें स्टंट प्लेस कर सकते हैं, या ओपन कोलिसिस्टेक्टमी करेंगे, ठीक है। दैट्स ऑल अबाउट कोलीलिथियासिस।